Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Tyreek Hill, the explosive wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins, has reportedly voiced his frustration with what he describes as a toxic atmosphere within the team, and insiders suggest this isn't the first time his name has been linked to locker room tension. Sources close to the Dolphins claim Hill has been increasingly vocal about feeling undervalued and misunderstood, despite his on-field brilliance. This revelation comes on the heels of a season where the Dolphins have faced a roller coaster of performance issues, both on and off the field. According to insiders, Hill's comments were made during a private team meeting, which allegedly turned tense when his candid observations about internal dynamics were met with defensive reactions from both teammates and coaching staff. While Hill has always been known for his electric speed and game-changing plays, his social media activity and interviews have hinted at growing frustration, raising questions about his long-term commitment to Miami. Some speculate that this tension stems from a combination of perceived favoritism in the offense, disagreements over game strategy, and conflicting personalities within a locker room that has struggled to fully gel. The Dolphins' front office has reportedly taken note, though they remain tight-lipped publicly, possibly to avoid further inflaming the situation. Fans and analysts are now debating whether Hill's statements represent a genuine cry for change or are simply a reaction to a rough stretch in team performance. But either way, the whispers of unrest have captured the attention of the wider NFL community, sparking speculation that the star receiver might be exploring options beyond Miami if the environment doesn't improve quickly. The potential implications for the Dolphins' season are significant, considering Hill's role as a primary offensive weapon and the uncertainty his dissatisfaction introduces into the team's chemistry. With multiple playoff aspirations hanging in the balance, observers are keenly watching for any signs that Hill's grievances might escalate into a full-blown standoff, potentially reshaping the team's roster and altering their strategic approach in ways that could reverberate throughout the league. Adding fuel to the speculation, unnamed sources suggest that several veteran players share Hill's concerns, though most are hesitant to voice them publicly, creating an undercurrent of tension that could affect locker room morale and performance on the field. Analysts are now questioning whether Dolphins management will intervene decisively, attempting to mediate disputes and reaffirm team culture, or whether they will allow the situation to simmer, risking a longer-term disruption that could affect both individual player development and collective success. The rumor mill around Tyreek Hill's dissatisfaction has ignited discussions across sports media platforms, highlighting the fragile balance between star power and team cohesion, and raising broader questions about how organizations manage high-profile athletes in high-pressure environments. Speculation continues to mount, as insiders hint that Hill's comments might be a strategic move designed to trigger organizational changes or to prompt trade discussions before the NFL calendar closes for the season. Even though nothing has been confirmed publicly, the narrative of a star player at odds with his team creates a storyline that feeds fan intrigue and media frenzy alike. The Dolphins now find themselves at a crossroads, needing to address internal tension without derailing their offensive schemes or alienating key contributors. Hill's future in Miami, while not yet written, seems to hinge on how quickly management and coaching staff can reconcile internal differences, re-establish trust, and provide a platform where the receiver feels supported rather than stifled. Rumors persist that if changes are not implemented soon, Hill's frustrations could translate into a trade request or diminished on-field engagement, both scenarios that would dramatically alter the Dolphins' trajectory and the perception of their organizational culture within the league. Observers are now watching every press conference, every practice snippet, and every media interaction for signs that the situation is escalating or resolving, aware that in professional sports, perception often carries as much weight as reality. The dialogue around Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins encapsulates a timeless tension in team sports, balancing individual brilliance with collective harmony and the challenge of managing personalities when stakes are incredibly high. Tyreek Hill, the dynamic wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins, has reportedly expressed growing frustration over what he describes as a toxic atmosphere in the locker room, sparking rumors that tensions within the team could be reaching a breaking point. Sources close to the organization suggest that Hill's comments were made during a private meeting with teammates and coaching staff, where his candid observations about internal dynamics reportedly created a ripple of discomfort throughout the room. According to insiders, Hill has long felt that his contributions on the field, particularly his explosive plays and game-changing speed, are not being fully recognized or valued in the team's decision-making process. These frustrations are said to stem from multiple factors, including perceived favoritism in offensive play calling, disagreements over strategic priorities, and conflicts with other high-profile players whose presence and influence may have overshadowed his own role. While the Dolphins' front office has maintained a public stance of unity and cohesion, behind closed doors, discussions about how to address Hill's dissatisfaction are reportedly ongoing. Analysts speculate that if these internal tensions are not resolved, they could influence not only Hill's performance, but also the broader team chemistry, which is crucial for playoff aspirations and long-term success. Fans, ever alert to subtle signs in interviews and social media posts, have begun to speculate on whether Hill's statements signal a potential trade scenario, a public appeal for organizational change, or merely a temporary reaction to a difficult stretch in team performance. Observers note that the timing of these revelations coincides with a period of inconsistent results for the Dolphins, where offensive execution has sometimes faltered and internal disagreements may have compounded the pressure on key players. Unnamed sources claim that several veteran teammates share Hill's concerns, though most are hesitant to speak openly, creating an undercurrent of tension that could affect locker room morale and influence on-field decision-making. With Hill being a central figure in the Dolphins' offensive strategy, any disruption involving him has immediate implications for game planning, quarterback relationships, and overall team cohesion. Rumors suggest that the coaching staff is exploring multiple approaches to mediate the situation, including private counseling sessions, adjustments to play distribution, and efforts to clarify communication channels within the squad, though the efficacy of these measures remains uncertain. Observers from across the league have taken note of the situation, with sports analysts and commentators speculating on the potential ripple effects if Hill were to seek a trade or reduce his engagement due to ongoing frustrations. Some suggest that management may be forced into a high-stakes decision, either appease Hill with tangible changes or risk losing one of the league's most explosive offensive threats, a choice that carries both immediate tactical and long-term reputational consequences. The narrative surrounding Hill and the Dolphins has ignited extensive discussion in sports media circles, highlighting the perennial challenge of balancing individual star power with collective team cohesion, particularly in high-pressure, high-stakes environments where egos, expectations, and performance metrics collide. Insiders indicate that Hill's dissatisfaction may also be tied to perceptions of leadership within the team, including how captains and coaches mediate conflict and maintain locker room unity, with Hill reportedly feeling that his voice has been overlooked or undervalued despite his status and contributions. Speculation continues to mount regarding Hill's next steps, with some sources hinting at preliminary trade discussions or internal requests for organizational change, though nothing has been officially confirmed, leaving fans and media alike on edge. In parallel, whispers of shared grievances among other players suggest that the situation is more systemic than a single individual's frustration, pointing to broader cultural or relational challenges within the Dolphins' locker room environment. As the story develops, every practice, press conference, and public statement is being analyzed for clues about how the team intends to handle the situation, reflecting the intense scrutiny professional sports organizations face when star talent expresses discontent. Analysts emphasize that the Dolphins' response to Hill's comments will not only affect his engagement, but could also shape the perception of the franchise among current and prospective players, influencing recruitment, retention, and long-term organizational credibility. While Hill's on-field production remains a cornerstone of the Dolphins' offensive scheme, the undercurrent of unrest has prompted serious internal discussions, with management reportedly weighing interventions ranging from enhanced communication and mediation to potential roster adjustments, all while navigating the fine line between discipline and appeasement. The unfolding saga underscores the delicate balance between athletic brilliance and team culture, reminding observers that even the most talented individuals operate within a broader ecosystem where interpersonal dynamics, leadership, and mutual respect are as critical to success as raw performance metrics. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? TYREEK Hill's reported frustrations with the Miami Dolphins locker room environment appear to have deeper roots than initially understood, according to sources close to the team, who describe a combination of interpersonal conflicts, strategic disagreements, and leadership tensions contributing to what Hill has labeled a toxic atmosphere. Insiders indicate that while Hill's prodigious talent and game-breaking speed have made him indispensable on the field, his perception of inequity in offensive planning, inconsistent communication from coaching staff, and a sense of undervaluation among his peers have gradually eroded his morale. The private meeting where Hill reportedly aired his grievances was described by attendees as intense, with his candid observations prompting defensive responses and awkward silences, highlighting a disconnect between player expectations and organizational culture. Observers suggest that Hill's frustrations might not be isolated, as whispers circulate that several other players share concerns about team cohesion and leadership accountability, though most prefer to remain silent publicly to avoid escalating the situation. Analysts speculate that this undercurrent of tension could have tangible consequences on game day performance, as even minor disruptions in trust and communication among teammates may translate into misaligned execution, particularly in high-pressure moments where precise timing and mutual confidence are critical. Adding to the speculation, sports media pundits have noted subtle cues from Hill's social media presence, his tone in interviews, and his interactions with teammates during practices, interpreting these signals as a manifestation of deeper dissatisfaction. While the Dolphins' management has publicly emphasized team unity and stability, internal discussions are reportedly ongoing to address Hill's concerns and preserve the integrity of the locker room culture. Fans have responded with heightened curiosity and concern, debating whether Hill's statements represent a temporary venting of frustration or an early indication of a potential trade request or strategic realignment within the organization. The rumor mill surrounding Hill's situation has intensified following inconsistent team performance, as analysts connect on-field struggles with possible internal friction, suggesting that unresolved interpersonal issues could compound the challenge of executing complex offensive schemes. Sources close to the Dolphins claim that management is weighing multiple strategies, including adjustments to play calling to emphasize Hill's strengths, one-on-one meetings to realign expectations, and potential leadership interventions to reinforce accountability and cohesion, though the effectiveness of these measures remains uncertain. As speculation grows, league insiders note that Hill's status as a star receiver amplifies the stakes, as any public acknowledgement of dissatisfaction can have ripple effects on franchise reputation, player morale, and even contract negotiations. The interplay of talent, personality, and organizational culture in this scenario highlights the precarious balance that NFL teams must navigate, particularly when managing elite athletes whose performance is critical, yet whose engagement is contingent on feeling respected and valued within the team environment. With playoff ambitions hanging in the balance, the Dolphins' handling of Hill's grievances may become a case study in how professional sports organizations reconcile individual excellence with collective harmony, as fans, media, and analysts await signs that either resolution or escalation is imminent. The evolving narrative underscores that even a superstar's exceptional ability cannot fully compensate for a strained locker room atmosphere, reminding observers that team chemistry, leadership dynamics, and player satisfaction are foundational to sustained success in professional football. Hill's outspoken remarks about Miami's locker room have reportedly sent ripples through the NFL community, with other franchises watching closely as they gauge the potential for trade opportunities, player acquisitions, or competitive advantage should the situation escalate further. According to sources familiar with the matter, Hill's concerns extend beyond surface-level disagreements, touching on structural and cultural elements within the team that affect communication, decision-making, and the perceived fairness of internal evaluations. Observers note that his comments could serve multiple purposes, as a candid attempt to spark meaningful change internally, as leverage in potential contract renegotiations, or as a precursor to exploring options outside Miami if the team fails to address his dissatisfaction. The tension appears to be compounded by the convergence of high expectations, a demanding fan base, and the pressure to deliver playoff-caliber performance in a competitive AFC landscape, making the environment particularly volatile for a player of Hill's prominence. Rumors suggest that Hill's dialogue with coaches and teammates has become increasingly strategic, with every statement, interview, and social media interaction dissected for signs of intent, whether genuine or tactical. Multiple insiders have hinted that the Dolphins' front office is aware of the stakes and is attempting to calibrate their response carefully, balancing the need to maintain authority with the imperative to keep a star player engaged and motivated. Analysts have also highlighted that Hill's dissatisfaction could influence the mindset of other players, potentially creating factions within the locker room if concerns are not addressed, thereby amplifying the risk of broader performance implications. Fans and commentators are closely monitoring practice sessions, press conferences, and sideline behavior, interpreting even minor interactions as possible indicators of either resolution or continued unrest. Sources indicate that while Hill remains committed to competing at a high level, the lack of perceived support and recognition has become a recurring point of contention, raising questions about the long-term sustainability of his tenure with Miami if changes are not implemented. The narrative continues to evolve, fueled by the inherent tension between Hill's superstar status, the team's structural challenges, and the high-stakes environment of professional football, leaving observers to speculate on potential outcomes ranging from reconciliatory interventions to trade scenarios. Sports media coverage has increasingly framed the story as emblematic of larger organizational dilemmas in the NFL, highlighting the intricate dynamics of managing elite talent while maintaining team cohesion, a balancing act that requires nuanced leadership and careful mediation. Ultimately, Hill's situation underscores that athletic brilliance alone cannot insulate a team from cultural friction, emphasizing the importance of both interpersonal management and strategic clarity in sustaining long-term competitive success. As the season progresses, the Dolphins' response to Hill's grievances will likely serve as a defining measure of organizational maturity, resilience, and adaptability in the face of high-profile internal challenges. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.